We have fourth quarter results from Chipotle. They sent the information out after the end of the trading day. Investors, however, not really impressed. Full year sales outlook falling short. Let's go to Jim Salera, research analyst of institutional equities and research. He joins us now to talk some more about this. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Okay, so we know Chipotle is facing some challenges. I'm wondering if the challenges they're facing, which is a consumer who doesn't have a lot of pocket cash, is industry-wide. Are other companies like Chipotle facing that same problem?
Yeah, so I think the challenges faced Chipotle specifically in the restaurant industry more broadly can really be put into two buckets. One, like you mentioned, headwinds from higher prices, consumer, particularly middle and lower income consumer, feeling some of that pressure, but also from increased adoption of these GLP-1 drugs and what that does to overall restaurant consumption. If you think, people that are on the drugs, range of estimates, but typically lands around 20% reduction in calories. That obviously is going to come both out of meals at home and restaurant meals. And so what we've seen across the restaurant industry as a whole is kind of modestly low single digit down traffic in 2025. I think the hope with Chipotle is that after a down year in 25, we would start to see a reacceleration in 26. And the company's guidance for flat same-store sales in 2026, I think, throws a little bit of cold water on that. And so it's not quite clear when we're going to start to see the impact of those kind of dual headwinds, the pricing headwinds, and then the GLP-1 headwinds, when those will start to ease.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how much those drugs have had an effect on companies like these ones, with people not sort of going to fast food or not ordering maybe as much when they do. On the first point about not enough money for the lower consumer, I'm wondering if they have taken that bull by the horns. We know McDonald's and other companies have said, okay, our menu, our meal deals are going to be, $5 or $10 or whatever it is. They've actually brought prices down for some of their products. Is Chipotle doing the same?
Yeah, so you've seen some menu innovation with Chipotle. They've been, very prominent about going back and making sure that all the restaurants are giving the appropriate portion sizes. We've seen kind of the discussion around, do you get more if you go in the restaurant versus order through one of the third parties, like Uber Eats or DoorDash. But then also, having smaller menu item options. So their protein menu has been something that they've highlighted and put a lot of, marketing support behind. At the same time, it's sort of happening across all of restaurants. You see a lot of restaurants taking prices down. And so it does broaden the consumer choice a little bit, where if you only have one restaurant that's reducing prices and everyone else holding still, that kind of shifts traffic there. And so I think Chipotle is certainly playing, they have part of that as a component. But remember, if pricing in the past was a benefit and we're going to start to see them, maybe pricing be a modest headwind, then that's going to weigh on same-store sales if you assume your traffic numbers are kind of, flat to down modestly. And so I think that's going to be the key component and what we're going to be looking for as the company gets into detail on the call here is what's the pathway to get back to, consistently positive traffic and bringing new guests into the restaurants.
Yeah, they're betting very heavily on opening new locations. They have an ambitious plan ahead on that. Is it the right time, do you think, for the company to continue to open restaurants considering the climate?
Yeah, so I think when they look at new restaurant locations, obviously Chipotle is very much U.S. centric. I think they're looking at a lot of opportunity, international markets, Europe, the Middle East, areas where they can go into market with existing partners in those areas that have a lot of depth of experience operating restaurants in those different markets. I think you've seen that as a playbook for a lot of restaurants that have success in the U.S., but also have a very prominent brand that they can borrow that brand equity and use it to kind of jumpstart in a new area. So I think that certainly is a worthwhile, growth vector for them. However, given the overwhelming size, they have almost 4,000 restaurants in the U.S., that is obviously going to be driver of the stock performance over the next, year plus. And so I think to make the stock work, we're going to really need to see a list or a selection of what they're going to do domestically to get that traffic back, and to get people, re-engaging with the brand and coming back to the restaurants here.
Okay, one of the other things they're doing are these lanes, like pickup lanes, essentially, where you can pick up something you've ordered digitally. Is that working for them?
Yeah, I think, Chipotle has put a lot of emphasis on throughput, and so speed of service. I think when you have a lot of people, coming out of COVID, there was a step up as everyone, went back to kind of their normal behavior post-COVID. People had extra money in their pocket. They wanted to go out to restaurants. They wanted to, go to their favorite restaurant. And I think in a lot of cases, some of the restaurants were constrained by operational limits and not being able to service, especially during peak demand times. Their investments in throughput have uncorked some of those bottlenecks. And so I think in a normal environment, a lot of the things they've done, with the Chipotle lanes, with increasing convenience, with lessening the burden on the in-store staff, servicing the people coming into the restaurant, have all done well. But now that we've introduced this kind of second headwind that the industry has to deal with GLP-1s, all of a sudden the focus shifts from how do I service increasing demand at my restaurants to how do I generate increasing demand for the restaurants. And I think the solutions to those are very different. And so I think the company is going to switch their focus to really honing in on what type of menu innovation do we need to do, what type of messaging do we need to do, what type of price points do we need to have in order to get guests to engage and, make us stand out in a industry where you're probably going to see less overall restaurant meals consumed.
Got it. Jim Salera, thanks for joining us. Got to leave it there.